Special Thursday edition of Off and On the Clock. We're going to get you guys ready for the divisional round slate on Underdog. I mean, this is the last hurrah as far as really good slates. 4 games, 8 really good teams, lots to dissect, both from a draft perspective and, of course, you know, we're going to get our slide on in the Pick'em lobby. I'm Pete with Jon and Nez. Let's do it. All right, guys, thank you for accommodating my travel schedule this week, doing a little early edition of Off and On the Clock. I know that kind of condenses our prep time, but how are we doing here?
Good, man. Yeah. Yo, nice thing with the prep, though. We've had 3 of these games before.
Yeah, that is true, isn't it? Yeah, we have seen...
the rematches?
Yeah. It's a good point. I hadn't
so you're saying we can just run it back. Last time the Bills played the Ravens, Derrick Henry rushed 24 times for 199 yards and touchdown. That's just what he's going to do it again.
Exactly. That's how it's solved. Game solved.
Yeah, I do feel I just wrote up my fantasy life column and I was looking at like our DVP tool and stuff and looking at the specific kind of macro matchup stuff. So I feel good about that. But as I was telling the guys before we did the show, haven't had a chance to draft as many teams as when we go on Friday. You know, normally able to get a decent amount. I know all of us were distracted with the Dog Bowl a little bit last night, devoting some time to that. But we're gonna walk through it and get everybody good to go here for this slate, which I will say our guys knew me in hope. They did not slow down in the lobby. They blasted off for this one.
Yeah, more or less
usual menu here with all the mid stakes and the main, and it is fun. I know, you know, our volume isn't where it normally is, but it's definitely fun. It's pretty condensed, so I think it makes it for easier drafting because you're not really, you know, fumbling over like a million different 6-round options. At least that's the way it feels for me.
Yeah. And last week was a weird week in that, or not weird, I guess straightforward in that you basically just had to hand pick the right player from each game. You know, it wasn't a big correlation thing. Like you could have Ladd, but if you had him with Herbert, you were dead. You know, you could, if you had Hurts, but you didn't have him with Goddard, like those lineups were probably not going to get there. You needed Derrick Henry. You needed those right pieces from each game. I am wondering, like, just kind of macro for you guys, are you thinking with only 4 games and a pretty big disparity in the totals in 2 of them versus the other 2, is this more of a slate where you might want to lean into a shootout game environment, or did we touch the hot stove with Commanders and Bucks last week and it's like, hey, let's just still pick the best players from each game?
I think this one sets up very differently than last week because like Lions Commanders with that's the highest total of any game all season long, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like we're not just talking about like, oh, the highest total game on this given slate. That being said, I mean, Ravens and Bills not that far behind at 51.5. So we got a 55.5, a 51.5. What's going to be interesting is what you do with, if anyone wants to stack the other 2 games, you're instantly contrarian because nobody's really going to be stacking Rams. Nobody's going to be stacking Texans. It's easy to stack Chiefs because they're like big favorites or whatever. But I think one thing that I really noticed looking at the leaderboards from last week and looking at some of the roster constructions at isolated moments over the course of the weekend is people were really funneling themselves to the same constructions over and over again. And not enough people were doing the one-off stuff, myself included. So I don't know, maybe there is a little bit of a macro takeaway going into this week that the S words win again and we should be running some naked quarterbacks here.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great naked quarterback slate as well. I mean, we have, you know, the 4 usual suspects, Allen, Lamar, Daniels, Hurts. And then we have, you know, Goff and Mahomes, which people are pretty excited about. And then Stafford and CJ Stroud are kind of the odd men out. And Nez, I think, you know, this slate is interesting and we'll talk through specifically the scroll down options, but at the 1Z positions, right? It's pretty simple math. Six quarterbacks taken, and there's 8 quarterbacks on the slate. It's almost like some of those Thanksgiving slates, right? Where, you know, it's just like, well, 2 of these guys are not going to be drafted. Luckily, it's Matthew Stafford and CJ Stroud and not like Tommy DeVito that we're having to decide about. But
I mean, depends who you're talking to.
Yeah, seriously. Are there any other macro things, Nez, that you're thinking about for this slate, maybe typical or atypical of a normal BR slate, as far as like how you want to approach being unique with a shortened player pool?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of these like principles of what are you doing at the 2-3 turn and potentially pulling up some players that normally wouldn't be taking there. Like Xavier Worthy is not a 2-3 turn player, but I don't think it would shock anybody if Xavier Worthy finds himself with like 80-2 this week, and he's one of the had to have it wide receivers, and not too many people paired him with Saquon. So I find that to be pretty interesting. I also love JMO this week, just as a macro point. I am very excited about JMO. So in the same vein of pushing up 2-3 turn, JMO 1-2 turn, I'm flirting with, man. That total's crazy. We've seen JMO have a really nice role all season. Unleash him for the playoffs, man. Like I'm so stoked for my guy.
It's funny you mentioned both Worthy and JMO, and I guess I'm getting ahead of myself because we'll go position by position or whatever. But those two have the kind of like boom bust, stigma, and yet their target floors these past few weeks have been so good. Like those guys, and their ADPs reflect it. Like there's a reason Jameson's 13.9 and Worthy's 16.6, and it's like good matchups. Those guys are trending in a really nice direction.
Yeah, I was surprised that JMO was expensive as he was, but like I get it. I came into the slate just as frothy as the field, apparently, and I'm chasing him. I'm chasing him up, man. I'm chasing him up.
What do you think, guys? Should we just go position by position here? I'll pull up the ADP, and we can kind of use that as the jumping off point. I think we can kind of be comprehensive as far as scrolls as well as the best plays here, just because it is such a small slate. The one ADP that just stood out to me, it really surprised me that Hurts wasn't QB4, that he was going behind Goff in Mahomes. Like maybe you could talk me into Goff because of the team total, just that game environment, all of that. But Mahomes ahead of Hurts just feels so bad to me.
Yeah, in actual practice, like the ones I was doing this morning and last night, he doesn't usually go behind. So I do think that will flip as like the weekend goes on, kind of deal. But yeah, I mean, Mahomes, all the memes floating around that he's been glorified Aaron Rodgers this year from a fantasy standpoint. Yeah, give me Jalen Hurts over that for sure.
I mean, that's interesting, man, because I did a few this morning, and like I'm getting a lot of 6-round Hurts, man. I mean, it's still
I didn't say, I mean, how rich do you?
It's neck and neck right now. I do have some Chiefs with these Hurts teams, or so. I mean, I don't know actually why, but it's definitely, it makes sense. It makes sense in my opinion, right? I mean, the top three are studs. That makes total sense. Goff in this insane game total here makes sense as well, being QB4. Where my gripe comes in is definitely Hurts being behind Mahomes, but this Mahomes passing core, man, is really, really strong. You get Hollywood Brown another week healthier without getting banged up, and he came in and immediately like had a better role than DeAndre Hopkins, and I think his style of play really fits the Chiefs, just being like that speedster as opposed to like a finesse wide receiver. I know, so I'm like jumping around a little bit, but I think Mahomes being over Hurts, I think it makes sense because you're going to see way more Chiefs pass catchers, taken as opposed to, at least by sheer number, compared to the Eagles. And we just saw Jalen Hurts look really bad. And this Rams defense is not a pushover either. So like, I can understand why people are scared of naked Hurts.
I think it's an interesting conversation because it's like, what are we going to tend to believe trend wise more? The fact that the Rams all of a sudden can get pressure and blitz the shit, was that a Sam Darnold quality or was that a Rams defense quality? And then the same with the Texans here. It's like, is this the team that was, giving up 32 points to the Titans in the middle of the year, 20 whatever to the Jags? Or is this a defense that can all of a sudden contain and play like they did last week and get pressure as well. So I do think it's like, what do your eyes believe recently with those two defenses?
Yeah. I mean, looking at stuff for me, we kind of talked about this last week with the Allen and Lamar ADPs relative to Daniels and Hurts, of like, there's a pretty big opportunity cost on the skill position players you can get at 7 and 9. To me, Jaden Daniels once again just falls in that sweet spot of you can still get the top studs there at the other positions with those picks, like comparable picks, right? You're choosing between Nico Collins and Josh Allen. You're choosing between, Kyron Williams and James Cook, or Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. And then you can just wait and then come in the third round and get Jaden Daniels, who has the same ceiling as those guys and in a better game environment by the totals point. So that jumps out to me. Obviously, on a short slate like this, you're going to want exposure to all of these guys. But like the Daniels Goff little duo, that looks like the game I want to access the most.
I think the only path to that game failing, because I think we saw like the propensity for both teams to go for it on fourth down in a big way, like the most recent games they've played. But I think the only path to that game failing is if the Commanders are able to do what they did last week in terms of ball control, where they had like these sustained like 15 play drives that like just took so much clock off. Like they had like I think they had multiple 8-minute drives in that ball game. Like, what the hell? Like that just does not happen. And then that like the inability that you need them to score faster, I guess is what I'm trying to say from the Commanders side of the ball, because they ran everything through Jaden Daniels last week.
Yep. Yeah. What about our scroll down quarterbacks here? Stafford and Stroud. Their draft percentage is going to be meaningfully different than the other 6 going ahead of them. And I don't know, man. You look at this, you got 2 pocket passers. You have projected negative game scripts. You have condensed target trees. I'm going to have a good bit of both of these guys this week.
Wow.
The Stroud doubles are so clean because it's Nico and Schultz. Maybe if you want to mess around with your Hutchinsons, I don't think the point is, I don't think you have to get there because this is already going to be unique on its own doing this. And same with the Stafford stuff. I mean, Kupp, if we get Higbee back, Higbee looked really good on Monday before he left the game. Like Kupp or Puka and Higbee is a really nice double. Like, I don't know, how clean it is in the ownership stuff really makes me want to lean into this here.
I mean, you are talking about the playoffs all-time passing leader per game, Matthew Stafford.
There you go.
Yeah, Stafford definitely feels like the harder one to get to here, because at least Stroud, you see him run a little bit more, when the games, when it's the playoffs, we saw 42 rushing yards for him against the Chargers. True. So, you're probably going to get a little bit on the ground from him as well. And like Pete said, I mean, it's going to be negative game script and where it's going to. So I like the idea. Like it is super clean, right? How you're getting your unique CJ Stroud. And I do not think you need to like take this one step further and completely like gigabrain yourself into thinking like, actually, like all the Stroud is with Nico, so I don't want to do Nico to Stroud. Like, don't do that. just stack it, man. I probably just like undercut what you were about to say, John. I think you were about to hit us with some Galbrain shit like that. So sorry, I had to put a stop to it.
On this one, I wasn't going to. I do like your shout about the Stroud over Staff stuff, though, just because, man, we keep going back to this every week because the Philadelphia secondary has just been so good since the Mitchell and Cooper DeJean stuff. They've just been lights out, and their ability to blitz is let me rephrase that. The thing that was done last week by the Vikings was so heavy, like design blitzes and stuff like that, and Matthew Stafford ball out quickly, just cooking the blitz kind of thing. Philadelphia doesn't blitz all that much. They just get natural pressure with like a good front four, right? So, it's just a much harder secondary to pass against.
The only, I guess, counter to that is they're also really hard to run against too, right?
That's true.
And we didn't get home on it, but we were all very excited to bet, the under on that pretty gaudy Kyron Williams carry attempt. He ended up with only 16. So that hit in a clean way. I think they're going to have to throw. And the reason I was rooting for the Rams is because I thought if Darnold didn't lay the stinker last week, he was going to go lay it here. Whereas like Stafford, I think can get the ball out quick, can limit mistakes. We didn't get to see a ton of huge yak plays from Puka in that wild card game. I think he still has that in him. I think with Higbee back, like I can't believe I'm saying it, but like Higbee added a dimension to that offense that I didn't know was there. So I don't know. I'm just talking myself into all the underdogs covering this weekend. So, take, my enthusiasm with a grain of salt, but I think the Rams can hang here. And I think the passing game can have a little success.
The reason I was cheering for the Rams, Pete, is shout out to us in the past here with those playoff combinations of getting Rams and Commanders through with naked Jaden Daniel teams that we discussed for 2 hours.
What do we have to show for it collectively?
Good vibes, morals,
directional accuracy.
Yes, all those good things. I got a couple nice gauntlet ones through there, but yeah, those $100 ones, unfortunately, we had no Derrick Henry, no cash, but yeah.
Yeah, for those of you who tuned in last week, we did 3 of the $100 big mittens, one on each of our accounts, and they were some really nice teams, and not one of them came close to advancing, or at least mine did. All right, let's move on to running back here. Like last week, I think running back is extremely top heavy. We can talk about some of the plays after 30, because there are some interesting stuff, but man, I would say like after Montgomery, if you haven't selected a running back yet, you're probably hurting a little bit this week.
Yeah. I kind of want to go like right to the scrolls, man.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's so top heavy, right? We all know like what these guys can do, how they get home and why they are projected as high as they are and why they go as high as they are. Montgomery is interesting because like he could easily come out and like the Lions are almost 10-point favorites. This has David Montgomery game written all over it. Yeah. He could very well outscore ADP 2 Jahmyr Gibbs in this game. Like he's going to play. He's been full practice. Like this could easily be David Montgomery game. Why would they risk giving Gibbs all these carries? I guess you could say the same with Montgomery's knee if they're up big, but like there's a really strong chance that David Montgomery is just cucking the shit out of these Gibbs owners. And then one pick below. Go ahead if you want to stay on this real quick.
Yeah, we've hit on all 3 cover boys without me saying a word about them in the first 15 minutes. So my job here is done, gentlemen. That's it. Nez is all over it here. We're good. Dude, I just think like all the bullish coach speak from Dan Campbell about calling him like the tone center, and like they love him so much. They signed him mid-year when they like didn't have to, like they gave him that extension and that sort of deal. I do think it's a really tough projection this week, the workload of Gibbs versus Montgomery, because the last time we saw Gibbs, he scored four touchdowns and like basically won a ball game against the best rush defense in football by himself. So I do think it is a really tough projection this week. But in terms of a dude who can fall into the end zone twice comparative to anybody else behind, he like sticks out like a sore thumb.
Agreed. Yeah. And he's also, we kind of talked about it last week, likely the thesis almost got there. Like he needed a touchdown and then it would have really hit, where like the Mark Andrews stuff doesn't. You gap all the other tight ends. Like Montgomery is that piece that can just wipe out so much. It can wipe out Gibbs. It can wipe out Goff in the passing game. Like if he has a 2 to 3 touchdown game, then like he's smashing all of these running backs. He's making it so you have to take wide receivers with your early picks. Like there's so much, like he can crater a slate with his role and in this game environment.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
And then go to the next guy, Pacheco.
Yeah. Pacheco, I think, is also like really interesting. I mean, he hasn't had like pretty much like any good games since he's come back. But again, the bye week, 1 week healthier here. Chiefs mega favorites. I don't see like how Pacheco can't put up like a top 3 running back score here. I mean, I know it's tough because you haven't seen it, but like the game environment lines up for it. And I mean, if he's just a little bit healthier, man, I think he can easily get there.
Yeah, I mean, like look no further than what led him to be a top 4 or 5 round pick in BBM this year was the playoff stretch of last year, where they basically took the kick gloves off and they were like, Pacheco's the dude. He goes out there and dominates snaps and rush attempts for the entirety of the playoffs last year and looks electric, right? So we haven't come all the way back to that yet. They've had 2 weeks off to rest. Maybe they just returned to that. You could say what you will about Kareem Hunt maybe being better than like the Clyde Edwards-Helaire's of last year that were behind him, and maybe they deserve a little bit of a workload balance there. But yeah, man, I'm kind of with you on this returning to like 12 carry Pacheco, especially as 10-point home favorites.
I guess I'm the Pacheco bear in that I just feel like he gets squeezed in both directions with Kareem Hunt. Obviously, in up-tempo situations, they're still using P. Ryan. And if I knew he had like a lock on the goal line stuff, I think I'd get more excited about it. But it's just like they really like using Kareem Hunt there. It feels like you have to thread a really specific needle of like the exact game script, the goal line carry goes his way, and then you also get that extra bump in usage that we've all been kind of like banking on since he's been coming back. It's just like hard when I see kind of where his usage has been, the previous weeks there. And it's just like, Kareem Hunt still leading him in snaps there, even as the rush attempt gap has dwindled.
I think part of why I'm like willing to bet on the positive side of that scenario is just like when you do these drafts and like you just don't want to like force yourself to click a running back and try to do different things. Like maybe you don't feel like waiting for the 6th round to take your quarterback or your tight end this time. Like Pacheco's usually there. And so it's just like, well, in the instance where Pacheco's back and he's like rushing for 100 yards and a touchdown, like, cool. Like, I think this team is actually like set up for success because I think a lot of people feel pretty bearish on Pacheco based on what we've seen so far.
Yeah. And that's a good point too. I think let me bump up. Yeah, I know we don't really need to talk about Henry Gibbs Barkley much, but I do think it's interesting talking about Kyren and Cook. Both have like really tough matchups, like on paper. It has not been easy to run on the Ravens, obviously Philly as well. And then these guys also don't necessarily catch a ton of passes, especially with Ty Johnson's emergence, in a way that like I'm going to have pieces of these guys because you're just going to obviously have to take stabs on all of these guys on this slate. But man, those are kind of tough ADPs for me to stomach just looking at it right now. What do you guys think?
They're kind of similar, aren't they? Where they're just banking on touchdown volume to give you that outlier score. Otherwise, you can just pencil them in for 8 to 10 on the volume side, like fantasy points. That is. I think I'd take and they're both pretty stable in terms of their roles here outside of like Ty Johnson being used on third down stuff, because sounds like no Ray Davis and obviously no Blake Corum for Kyren. That being said, I think I just go to Cook here and I just go to, Rams have the lowest implied team total outside of the Texans, that is, this week. I just play into that 25 versus 18.5. And then I've seen explosive playability from the running back who leads the NFL in rushing touchdowns this season, opposed to Kyren, who just breaks nothing off except for that 1 15-yard run last game.
Yeah, we remember that because we had a longest rush pick 'em.
A
big fat red dot on that one. So LOL. No, I'm with you. I prefer Cook to Kyren here. It is like strange and upsetting that we're not getting a ton of receiving work for James Cook right now, and that it's been like Ty Johnson being like the best wide receiver on the Bills, making this back of the end zone catch. Like, what the fuck, man? So that is a little disheartening, but James Cook is a huge part of the offense, and he's just a legit very good running back, and is a threat, and he's gonna have a decent game. I do worry about Kyren's floor more than I worry about James Cook's floor. One thing about Kyren, man, that I think is that I'm like sort of like warming up to. I still think the price is a little too expensive, but like I'm like really worried about Jalen Hurts in this game. And like if they have like any reason to like if they're trailing at all, man, I think it's bad news for the Eagles. Like I just don't think Jalen Hurts. I'd hate to sound like such a huge hater right now, but like he just has not looked good as I never thought he looked that good as a passer in his career. He had some nice deep balls, memorable deep balls that in his, in his highlight reels. But like I do worry that like the Rams are able to like bottle up the Eagles, and then they just and then it's just the Kyron show, and they're just like killing clock, and Kyron, finds his way to, that 20 rush attempt mark that seems to be like the benchmark for him.
I do think that's like a good point in thinking about both of these guys. At least when you select Kyron, you can kind of immediately tell yourself a story of the game script you want for that to hit. It's a little harder for James Cook, right? Because last week we actually saw him run a ton, which made sense. Like have this lead, salt away this game. He gets 23 carries, doesn't catch any passes. But then you're like, okay, what if it is an up-tempo shootout? If he's not getting any receiving work in that script, and then he's still only getting 12 to 13 carries, you basically have to have him hit a home run on a carry to be optimal.
That's a good point. And I will say, like, not that it matters for this game, because this is not going to be the Denver game. He basically didn't play like the fourth quarter of that Denver game. Like, I really don't remember seeing James Cook get a carry in the fourth quarter of that game. But no, you're absolutely right. But yeah, I don't see him being a part of like a pass heavy game script if that's how this goes.
The 30 scrolls time?
I think so. Yeah, John, because there's some fun stuff here. Let's go obviously after Pacheco, because we talked about him. John, I'll let you start the scrolls conversation here.
I think the most enjoyable like stack based partners and game script ones that you can tell yourself are Allen to Ty Johnson, the Eckler to JD to Eckler, and then Justice Hill Lamar. Like those ones feel like the cleanest and most intelligent. Actually, Justice Hill had a monster game the first time those two teams met. Now, whether that was happenstance without Matt Milano, perhaps. Bill's defense was pretty banged up at that point in time. But Hayden and Josh did note on their show how many 2 running back sets and how many 2 tight end sets were used that week. And I imagine we'll see something similar with Nose Flowers this week. So I think Justice Hill is probably my favorite out of this grouping, and he goes the lowest, which is good fun leverage there. And then I really liked the Eckler role last week. Only played 2 fewer snaps than B-Rob. They've been inept when it came to running the football outside of quarterback runs. And Eckler, they were using in like some design lead block like schemes. Eventually, they're going to just be able to use that as like a misdirection play, and then break off of that and start getting him like more of those design receptions there.
These were the 3 that jumped out to me as well. And I think they're fun in that, one, they're escape hatches. If you don't have a running back at the end, you can correlate them all with the quarterback, or I'd want to correlate them opposite the other quarterback, and just say, hey, negative game script on Goff stuff, seeing a ton of Eckler, and then obviously negative game script opposite Lamar or Allen. I think there's a lot of different ways to utilize these guys, and it's nice to see. I mean, like both Ty Johnson and Justice Hill coming off of receiving touchdowns. You mentioned Eckler's role. Literally the only thing that tilted me was all of those Brian Robinson catches, because I had done like a lot of ladders on like Eckler receptions with my pick'ems and stuff. And I was like, the thesis was there. Like they were throwing the ball more. But B-Rob was like surprisingly involved in the pass game at 4 receptions for 22 yards.
I know, he kind of just glossed all over him. And ADP also has people like wanting to play Eckler in the negative game script. And I understand. I get it. But like if this game is high scoring and the Commanders are at the goal line, Brian Robinson is probably going to get these carries. So, I mean, he ran 2 fewer routes than Eckler last week. 5 targets to Eckler's 4. I mean, he's pretty involved, man. If the ADP tells me Eckler is being taken, if he's the running back of choice, I'll just like take the lesser chosen guy.
That's actually a good point, Nez, relative to their ADPs right now. If Eckler's being drafted more frequently because it's like a sexier, more fun click for people, B-Rob's a better click.
Yeah. He's like a really, really poor man's version of Kyron too, in that like he'll never see that many carries, but he's also the guy that can keep Jane Daniels from reaching his ceiling, can keep Terry McLaurin from reaching his, can limit possessions, for the line, stuff like that. Like he can have that trickle down effect on the game when he hits in a big way.
Yeah, I respect it. One last disgusting, don't do it at home.
Oh,
Not
wow.
financial advice here. You
Oh,
want to
no.
talk about hitting in a big way? There's one player who has scored a 55-yard touchdown this year and a 92-yard touchdown this year. If he finds himself to 3 carries, as he's prone to do each week, and one of those is a house call, you break the slate all on your own.
You gonna say his name for the audio listeners, even though I put him in the queue as you started going?
That's Dame Pierce right there.
It is crazy looking at his line from that Tennessee game. 19 for 176 and a tutty, 23.6. There you go. John's vomit scroll.
They call him Big Game Dame around here.
All right, let's head over to wide receiver here. Obviously, the top end is pretty clear here by ADP. Amon-Ra, Puka, Nico. I think it's maybe a little generous for Terry to claw his way into that top 10 conversation with those guys. But again, I get it. The Lions have been very susceptible to wide receiver points. And I will say it was nice to see Terry a little bit more involved in the short and intermediary stuff, as opposed to just being like the big play merchant. It did seem like they were kind of getting him involved, like, picking up first downs and stuff. So I liked seeing that. But yeah, where do you guys want to start with wide receiver here?
Well, I mean, like, all these guys sort of have like kind of tricky matchups, right? I mean, like, at least that's how I thought about it. Like, I'm not like ecstatic like Amon-Ra wide receiver 1 makes sense, right? It's the highest team total on the slate or on the season here for Amon-Ra, but like I feel like Detroit just has so many different ways that they can win games that I'm not necessarily like loving Amon-Ra wide receiver 1. Puka has a tough matchup against Philly. Nico has a tough matchup, but I kind of like Nico the most here. Like, I just think that he's the safest for target volume and the safest to actually like produce. So like I oddly prefer Nico out of this top 3.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on the Amon-Ra stuff. I think Puka would be my wide receiver 1 drafting. I still just think he has everything you want as far as the kind of floor ceiling combination, and assuming the Rams can keep this close, like Puka has to be a huge part of this game for them. But yeah, I like the Nico stuff as well. I get why Amon-Ra's first off the board. He just gives people such a warm, comfy feeling of like the floor is so good. It's almost impossible to see him not getting to 10 points in this spot. And then the ceiling's always intact. But I'm with you. It's kind of a choose your own adventure there with those top 3 or 4.
Yeah, I think the biggest conversation is Puka versus Amon-Ra. I mean, I won't be pulling Nico over both of them just because of the implied total and just because we saw one game of it in recent memory. I'm not ready to do that yet. I like Nico at his price tag comparative to the rest, but I won't pull him above these 2 here. I don't know, man. I keep coming back to that secondary just being so good for the Eagles there. I'm a little scared, but Puka's monster and he can get there just with like peppering volume, especially in a trailing script. So I do think this is the toughest decision on the slate period, even more so than the running backs at the top of the board.
I guess here's a question for you. The thing of why I think these 3 separate maybe a bit from these other guys is because it does seem like these are the 3 that can get home even if like the game script and even if stuff for their team doesn't go completely good, right? Like it's hard to imagine AJ Brown just having this incredible game, even with like Hurts struggling or the offense. Like Amon-Ra can do that. Puka can do that. Nico can do that. So these are kind of like your one-off kings, right? Like you can correlate them. Absolutely. But you can also play them as one-offs. And this again funnels me back to the Stafford and Stroud stuff. Like we're taking Puka and Nico second and third overall. And if they are breaking the slate, dropping 25 plus, it's pretty likely that their quarterback is dropping 20 plus, which at their price is going to be very, very helpful.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think the 1v1 or the 2v2s you're thinking of when you are doing Stafford with or Stroud with those guys is not necessarily between like the top end QBs, but like the Mahomes and Hurts, because those are typically the last QBs off the board, and you can even throw Goff in there. So you really just need them to like match those QBs, and then you have the flex advantage where people are taking the earlier QBs on top of that. We talk about Terry, like feeling rich, but I think it makes sense to most people why he goes there. I'm willing to put on a brave face, man, to pull up JMO. Like I said at the beginning, at the 1-2 turn. I know I'm nuts, but like I don't think you're going to see a lot of JMO at that turn. So there's some uniqueness involved with that. And what if the leading scorer on this 30 point team is this guy? I mean, I don't think it would shock that many people. So I'm really excited about him. I do wish he was a tad cheaper, but I can't be too choosy here. So I'm stoked about JMO, and I'm gonna probably take him over AJ Brown in my drafts.
I think to your point, I think this entire tier of McLaurin, AJ Brown, Jameson, and Worthy is completely flat, and you could shuffle that up any way you want, and I wouldn't think it was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Think definitely, a little bit of it. Maybe you could include Devontae Smith if you wanted. I'm probably not, just because the target upside we've now seen for Worthy and Jameson, I think, is there. John, what about as we start to scroll a little bit? Let's say after Devontae, we can touch on Shakir and Bateman. These guys fall into kind of a tougher range where you're still getting 100% draft rate, but you're not necessarily getting the target upside as the other guys. And then obviously pretty big question marks about everyone else after them. Like I'm even shocked people are still clicking Cooper Kupp after what we've seen from him over the past 5 weeks. But thoughts kind of on this bottom tier of wide receivers?
And the Higbee coming back and just going like 5 for 50 or whatever, like at his expense was just like so eye opening. The lack of separation right now, it's so sad. Man, I love Cooper Kupp. Just pour one out for him. I think you could play whack-a-mole on the Bills pass catchers. I think it's a really, really hard decision to parse through. I do think the matchup this week for Keon Coleman looks better, considerably better than last week, though it is still obviously not easy. But yeah, I think Keon Coleman would probably be my favorite of that bunch there. And then the Hollywood versus DeAndre Hopkins one, I think we've seen enough from the Hollywood in the 2 games back now that he's kind of stepped into that one. Nez alluded to that one earlier. I just wanted, I haven't commented on it yet, but I wanted to hit on it. I do think Nez has a really sharp point with like the game theory of this slate, it being similar to Thanksgiving, as you alluded to, Pete, it being similar to like a basketball slate in terms of like pushing up or pushing down some of these corner combinatorials that other people won't do because there's such clear divisible lines in the sand in terms of projection. So I just wanted to harp on that. I think the JMO stuff's smart. I think the Worthy stuff is really smart there. And then, yeah, if you want to go by way of, everybody fell in love with Zacchaeus, like, what was that, 2 weeks ago? And all of a sudden, De'Ami Brown's, over him there. They're still using him as kind of like more of the gadgety, more of the underneath, more of the design stuff. So if you want to play the low A dot explosion narrative, like similar to like Mims last week, you could go that way as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you highlighted that spot because this one's probably my favorite scroll of the wide receivers. Olamide, kind of discarded after the De'Ami game. He ran more routes than De'Ami Brown, was only 2 targets short of him, 5 versus 3. I think this is kind of like one of the classic spots, similar to the Packers, any of these kind of wide receiver by committee teams where you never want to get too overconfident in who that guy is. So I look at Terry's ADP and I'm like, that seems frothy. De'Ami has the 1 spike and now he's over Olamide. It has me coming firmly back to Olamide here as being like a really strong play. I think you could do him as a one-off, bring back on Goff stuff. I think you could skinny stack him with Jaden Daniels. I think he looks really strong to me.
I'll give a. Oh, sorry, Nez. Go ahead.
No. I agree with all that. Like I'm not doing the De'Ami Brown stuff. Like I know he looked pretty cool being like, just trucking dudes in the short passing games. No, I'm going Zacchaeus.
Last one that I will say is if you want to get instantly different with the staff doubles, just throw in DeMarcus Robinson there. They're typically speaking a team that runs a lot of 3 wide receivers sets. They used a lot of tight end stuff last week, and I think it's because they were concerned about the pressure rates coming from the Vikings and like the propensity for them to be the highest blitzing team or one of highest blitzing teams in football. I think maybe you see a little bit more of 3 wide receiver stuff, especially if they're in a trailing game script instead of leading like last week. And DeMarcus Robinson may or may not have more juice than Cooper Kupp right now.
I mean, do you know who ran more routes last week
between the two of them? I mean, the phrasing of the question leads me to believe, yeah,
but you would never expect, by 9, you ran 9 more routes or 6 more routes than Cooper Kupp last week, according to Fantasy Life.
Yeah.
The last one I will mention here that Cuber talked about, and John Mechie had 8 targets last week. It was only 4 for 28. It's kind of sometimes like low ADOT stuff, but if we want to like hone in on roles, and you also, I mean, we got to mention you have 1 extra target vacated by Deontay Johnson, who was seen crying in the locker room because John Mechie got more targets than him and is now on his fucking 5th team. I guess technically 4th team back with the Ravens.
Yeah, I was about to say a full circle back with the Ravens. That's just a troll job by the Ravens because they can't even use them. Because if you reclaim a player, you can't use them in this calendar year or whatever. Yeah. So he's just on the roster for next year. They're probably going to release him in preseason there and let him go back to the Steelers. They're just straight troll jobbing right now.
I mean, just unbelievable stuff from Deontay Johnson. Like that report, I wrote about it in the Fantasy Life newsletter today. Like they were literally smoking cigars in the locker room, celebrating their upset over the Chargers. And Deontay Johnson was like listening to Dashboard Confessional, like by himself in the corner. And people were having to like come console him while chiefing on a big one. It's like, fucking grow up, Deontay. Jesus
That's
Christ.
Insane. That's insane. He needs to read. The Inner Excellence there. AJ Brown, lend him his book there. Actually, that's a good point by Swish Sanders in the chat there. They did it to get a comp pick.
Yeah.
Nice play.
That was
okay.
I think that was the initial. The initial one was part of like the comp pick play. I don't know what this recent re-signing thing was. Maybe that was dovetailing with that. All right, let's go on to tight end here. We get the 2 big boys back on the slate, Kelsey Laporta. We had kind of the infinitely long tier last week at tight end. Mark Andrews still here as the 3rd guy. And then you kind of have a decent amount of scrolls. Goddard played well last week. Ertz always in play. Kincaid, catches 1 deep ball to keep his fantasy value on life support. Likely Schultz, Higbee. Like I think all the way down to Higbee, you can make a case for these guys.
Yeah, no, I agree. This is super deep and similar scenario to last week where we have the Schultz scroll. And I think it's pretty sharp. I'm just like, I don't know, man. Out of principle, I just don't think I can draft Dalton Kincaid. I'm just, I can't do it, dude. Like, I'll if I ever feel like drafting Kincaid, I'll just draft Dawson Knox. Like, I just don't want to do it, and I refuse to do it. And I'm going back to the likely well as well here. Just like strictly scroll speaking, doesn't look like we're going to get Zay Flowers. Looks like we're going to see a ton of pass volume. This game should just be an instant classic. And I think likely is a huge part of this game being awesome and a huge part of the passing game for the Ravens. So being tight end 7 is like, yeah, just sign me the hell up, man. Like he's one of the best picks right now, in my opinion.
I'm with you. I like just even clicking Dalton Kincaid makes me want to vomit, but just to kind of like illustrate, I mean, it was like last week Goddard was the optimal tight end. He went 4 for 47. And the reason he was the optimal tight end is because he had one of the sickest plays. You'll see double stiff arming the guy, but he scored a touchdown. And it's like all of these guys, their outcome is 3 for 37, 4 for 47. And it's which one finds the end zone. And I'm with you. Like Kincaid's probably less likely to find the end zone than these other guys. but it's still any of these guys down to Higbee can put up the 3 for 37 and 1 touchdown line, which is what makes it both frustrating and fun, I guess, from a scroll perspective. I guess the question is this: can Kelsey and Laporta separate in a way where 3 for 37 and 1 actually isn't enough on this slate?
Yes, but I don't say it with a great deal of confidence. I do think the narrative there for, postseason Kelsey, last hurrah, he's going to get 8 targets in the first drive or something insane like that, and they just keep trying to find him the ball. I don't think that's the way this team best wins now, especially given the revamped pass catcher corp here. So I think narratively speaking, yes, Kelsey has that 10 for 101 in his bag that could give you the 20 burger that you need, or 20 plus burger that you need. But yeah, I'm pretty fine just scrolling around at tight end this week.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I guess the other thing, maybe more macro, where are you guys at on, I feel like on the bigger slates, I definitely lean into kind of just correlating my tight end with the quarterback a lot, especially if I haven't done a stack. I mean, thinking about these shorter slate dynamics, are you guys more likely to just kind of like RNG it, just take the tight end? Or if you're at the end of your draft and you took Lamar and you're looking at all of these options, Kincaid, Likely, Schultz, Higbee, are you taking Likely? Like, at what percentage clip are you taking Likely in that scenario versus like RNGing one of, Schultz, Higbee, one of these other guys? I guess that's my question.
This has probably been one of my biggest shortcomings this season in general, because I would answer Likely like 90% of the time. I would funnel myself to those builds, and I would do that. And what we've seen coming up in the S words and what we've seen winning and stuff over the course of the season are lineups that I would never get to, but they're being got to by smart players. Like, look no further than Manaray's lineup from last week that took down the main BR. And then you look at the names around them, Awin, Samuelson, all in the top 5, and they all got to builds that like I wouldn't get to. And that's probably a flaw in my game. And I should be RNGing the fact that, yeah, man, just because it's Dallas Goedert doesn't mean it has to be tethered to Hurts or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. I would probably be like 90% likely for me right there.
Yep.
Yeah, I would think the same thing.
Yeah, and it has been for me too. I think trying to push myself out of that, another thing, the lower the scoring is for the position, which it is at tight end, and the more randomness that's introduced via touchdowns, which it is, like the more likely it is for one of these guys to get there without their quarterback getting there, to get there without the game environment. So I think you probably want to be like RNG. Like, you still want to tilt it probably a little bit to the correlation, but all of us naturally wanted to be 90% when it should probably be like closer to 50% or even a little less than 50%.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, given the fact that we're dealing with like 6-person rosters and stuff like that, like I wonder if those ceilings actually negatively correlate in some respect at like at a threshold of ownership. That's the one thing that's really fucking with my head right now.
Yeah.
I think the one point I'll make on tight end, just like how I'm approaching it right now, is like I'm almost always using a 5th or 6th round pick on tight end. I don't see, like with Kelsey, man, like it took a game against the Buccaneers and like nobody being healthy for the Chiefs for him to like really show a ceiling. These tight ends are just not breaking slates. So I'm feeling quite comfortable. Like I will mix and match here and there, but like I am not wasting a high capital pick when I need a wide receiver 2 or a flex position. I'm not wasting that pick on Kelsey or Laporta most likely in my drafts. I'm going to be punting quite a bit at tight end this week.
Cool.
I will just say that, there's a lot of things you don't want to say like a definitive thing and you just like get burned by it.
I do it all the time, Pete.
Don't do double tight end ever. And specifically on this slate, this is what I tell myself, God, here you go, Keeper. This is what I tell myself. If I'm doing a bunch of drafts, I am naturally going to accidentally auto a couple double tight end teams, whether I'm doing an auto or I'm not paying attention, that is my exposure to double tight end accidents. That's the only exposure you want to double tight ends are accidents. And if you were to do it, like it would have to be with Kelsey and Laporta, right? Like that's like the only way we were saying I'm going to treat Kelsey, but just don't do it. Just say no to it.
Yeah, no.
Watch it hit.
I got one last question for you guys. Just came up because of double tight end and some of the correlation patterns and stuff like that. Are there any teammates which you would be like full fading in stacks this week? And are there any contrarian ones that people will get underutilized, a la Gibbs plus Monty, that people will that you want to get to that the field will underutilize? So asking the same question two ways.
Well, Gibbs Monty is like the poster child, right, of being able to get home.
Yeah.
Would you have any others, Nez?
No, yeah, sorry. I was going to say like max 1 Eagles skill position.
You're really out on Eagles scoring points this week, eh? Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay.
You're such a hater, bro. I guess here's another one I would maybe do, John.
Mm-hmm.
Say I don't get there. Say I have some builds where I'm not doing the Stafford double or the Stroud double, and I still want to think of like ways to play that game in a way the field isn't. I don't mind the running back tight end pairings of Joe Mixon, Dalton Schultz, Kyron Williams, Higbee, being like, look, these guys score more points. They stay in the game more than expected, but Stafford and Stroud still can't actually keep up with the mobile quarterbacks and the other things, but the touchdowns funnel through the running back and the tight end, and those guys get home, and I'm making like a correlated bet on the upset or more production without it. Like that would probably be a correlation, teammate correlation that I would entertain.
One insane one is double Baltimore Ravens running backs. I mean, like we know the narrative of pass catching running backs versus Buffalo this season and your ability to beat them on the ground. And the last time they played, 35-10, obviously big Ravens script there, but Justice Hill was their leading receiver in that game with a receiving touchdown. And then Derrick Henry had the 200 yards on the ground as well. So I don't know if that one's a little gal brain, but just wanted to throw it out there.
Yeah. I mean, last time they played, I'm pretty sure that would have gotten home in week 4, because I think Justice Hill had a pretty usable line that week. And then, Derrick Henry went nuts. All right, let's talk a little kind of smaller field strategy, because we do have, obviously we got our Deposit Kingdom contest that is up, and we just have a ton of the typical smaller contest, bomb, fullback dive. We even got Engage 8 this week, which is awesome, a $5 8 entry max. We got the QB sneak that is triggering for me because I drafted Lad in that contest last week and found a way not to cash. Wow. We have the cover 4. We have the blitz. Like we have more side contests this week than we have in a very long time. So kind of dovetailing on what you were just talking about with kind of correlating or taking two teammates. Like I think those strategies are kind of almost viable in both. They're viable in the big field because they're going to be underutilized, but they're viable in the small field too, because you're just saying, hey, let me capture 35 plus points from the Lions running backs and I'll just figure it out at other positions. And I'm not going to guess where exactly it's coming from.
Yeah, no, I think it's actually pretty sharp.
Any other kind of small field stuff? I mean, we were just talking about correlating and like the likely Lamar issue. Do you guys find yourself wanting to lean more into the correlating this week with the side contests?
I like doing the Lions like mega onslaught stuff. I think that's a lot of fun, where like Goff is like the highest scoring QB by a meaningful amount. You capture all of the pass catchers with it, assuming that it's a heavy pass catching type of onslaught, and in finding your way to a nice cash that way. In the small field, I think that's a ton of fun and very viable, because once you kind of stake claim on the Lions, most of the time the room will let you take Goff in the 6th.
That's a good point. Yeah, I do think like those mega onslaughts or the game onslaughts, like, don't you think in some of these smaller contests, if you wanted to exclusively have a lineup with 6 Bills and Ravens, a lineup with 6 Lions and Commanders, and just say, this is the game. Like, it goes for 60 plus points. And this is the game. And yeah, maybe I'll sacrifice nailing a 20-point score in another game, but like, this game gets home and all I need is this game to win a small tournament.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's do a Deposit Kingdom draft here. We also got the BadgeBros Brawl, so we'll do these back to back here. And then I do want to make sure we have enough time for pick'ems. I'm doing lulls here at 1:30, so let's just do a couple quick drafts, and then we can fire up the spicy pick'em machine.
One thing I just wanted to bring to people's attention, because I jammed it at lock last week, was the Engage 8 payout structure is different for the main slate than it was for the other one, because I jammed that in like the Primetime Palooza or whatever, and it was like super top heavy or whatever. Engage 8 is way flatter this week than it was last week, so there are min and cash outs and whatever, because I was going to drop a little strategy nugget associated with that, but I just wanted to put it on people's radar that it's not the same, and I do like this one a lot better.
Sweet. All right, guys, we got the 1-6 here. We got some friends, we got some family, and whatever you would call a win. Are in here.
A good haircut. That's what he is.
I do like how Awin has now, like, he hangs out in the Discord more. He's in the comments on the stream, because he liked to pretend early on that he didn't watch any content, that he didn't do any of this, that he was just this robot who swooped in. But he's revealed
he's one of us now. We got him now. He's one of us. Yeah, man, he's had one of the best years on the platform, flat out.
He's crushing.
Yeah. But hey, shout out last night, JT McKenzie took down a seat there, who's a really good player who we basically have no interaction with, who I've wanted to seek out for a long, long time. So really excited. Hopefully he or she comes out to the Dog Bowl there, get to meet him. And then Patrick Barnes, YouTube, running it back. Multi-sport qualifier here for the Dog Bowl.
Dude, someone should go pull the clip. So I think I had tuned in for a second. So our guy Sheep, we'll make these picks and then I'll tell the story here. Yeah. So we're at the 1-2 turn here. Goes Barkley, Henry, Gibbs, Amon Ra. We'll see what T Diddy does here. He takes Nico. I want Puka, and then you guys can decide anything else.
Do it for Nez. Nez, let's do it. Let's get weird in the contest and pull up one of your guys.
All right. You don't have to sell me, man. Let's do a little Puka JMO.
Boom.
Like that's probably going to be very low ownership or low combination. I think
100%, because JMO is never falling to 18. I guess I should say never say never. But
as far as I'm
very
concerned,
unlikely.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
I'll be letting Numi know. Hang on. Anyways, so Sheep, after the Dog Bowl, had the top 3 finishers on there, right? He had Viper and Patrick Barnes. And I want to say he asked this question to Patrick about playing like other sports and other than that. And he's just like, I'm just never going to play a sport where I know nothing about it. Like, I'm just never going to do it. I like football and I like living in it, but I'm not the kind of guy to just go like auto just to like get a sweat. Flash forward to last night. Looks like someone changed their tune.
That's very good.
Yeah,
I tuned in for a short segment of that as well, but I didn't see that exact quote. So that's great context, Pete.
Yeah,
that's really funny. I think he had 2 lineups.
2 lineups.
2 lineups?
Yeah.
Oh, it makes you feel so dumb, doesn't it?
So I did see
John, it does.
He had Maxey with Wimby. Did that have to be like an early draft then?
Before Embiid got ruled out.
There was 3rd round Maxey going around. Like I had a 3rd round Maxey couple bags too. So it wasn't like crazy. Like I had Jaw with Wemby and I had like weird stuff like that early in the day. But once he took those 7-8 dudes out of the player pool, it was tough to get those combos. And then the Joker getting ruled out thing where we talked about on the show, it was just like, you never know with this guy.
That was a wild slate.
Well, we talked about that. We talked about how he could pop up because he had the P tags leading in and whatever. I put my hand up for naked Jaden Daniels or figure it out later, and then David Montgomery, and you run that versus the game environment.
I love the Montgomery call. I think we're all in on that. I'm good with Jaden or Goff. What do you think, Nez?
Let's just like take a look at what wide receivers we also have available here. Because I would throw my hat in the ring for like Hollywood, but I'm
we
cool
could
with
also
Jaden.
we could do the Olamide with Jaden later, or just
that's
bring
true.
back on Goff.
Yeah, that's true. Let's run Jaden.
All right.
I think this week most people are going to naturally funnel to 1-1-3-1s, eh?
Yeah, I think so. Unless people start with one of like the early RBs, obviously. I don't think you're going to see a lot of like. I mean, that's what my dress up looked like.
I agree. Although I think you can make the case that like these secondary running backs that we talked about are like on par with the wide receivers too. Like you're going to compare like Eckler and Cooper Kupp. You're going to compare, Ty Johnson and Keon Coleman. Like I actually think it's pretty flat, like positionally once we're down in this range.
It's very flat.
It's crazy to have we would have been having the Kupp versus Eckler conversation last year or a year before, but it would have been about the 1-0-1 this week. It would have been about they look the same. Yeah, they look the same at 1-0-1. Now they look the same as 6-round punts.
Yeah. I do love this correlation. The Montgomery, JMO, and Jaden.
It's the best.
Because you can definitely tell yourself how like those two get there without Goff and Amon-Ra getting there. And then Jaden in comeback mode. Putting the team on his back. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. How about this? So we can decide on what we want to do with the 5th round pick. And then we random number generator our tight end selection per our conversation.
Okay.
I'm with it.
All right.
All
right. Let me get the window up here. Where am I? Where did this go? Oh, it's right here because I was pulling up that. All right.
I love that we're literally random number generating.
It's but this is how we have to push ourselves out of our comfort zone. I'll get it ready here. We'll do it 1 through 4, I think, depending on 1, 2, 3, because this Spike will take 1 and then we'll be okay with Kincaid, Likely, Schultz, or Higbee.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have to. This will be a test 1 here. That doesn't count. That's the test setup. All right. Okay, so this pick is. Do you want to do Olamide or do you want to do something else?
I like it. I think it's a good scroll. Well, it depends if Ertz is there as tight end, because then you can give a slight correlation boost in your randomizer. But yeah, Olamide feels good.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do Olamide here as I lose him. And then Ertz is here. So I'm actually going to extend 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to extend this to 5, guys.
All right.
You ready to? All right.
In order.
Big money, big money, big money, big money. Let's go. 2. It is Dalton Kincaid.
Bust. Oh, fuck me.
That was the perfect run out.
Right.
That was the perfect run out.
I'm gonna have to ask Zach or Lou to make a clip of this at the beginning of the show, Nez being like, I will never click Dalton Kincaid. Then me saying we should just be RNGing our picks and then RNGing.
Roulette wheel fucking Dalton Kincaid. Jesus Christ.
That's always with.
Very good.
0-0.
That's incredible.
Man, I nobody cares. I RNG'd a really, really thin spot last night that was like a 8%. And I rolled like a 7, and I was like, fuck, I got to call it off for like 300 big blinds based on that. And it was like the biggest punt call I've made in 3 years. It was so bad.
Just blame, you get to blame the randomization gods.
Right. And I was like, oh yeah, this is probably like a call like 8% of the time. And I like said it out loud to myself, and then I spun a 7, and I was like, oh God, no, please.
That's not
It was
credible.
like a 2 times pot over bet for like 3 buy-ins. Perfect.
I've had not that exact moment, but with the
Hmm.
RNG stuff where I do it and then I rerun it because I don't like
Right, yeah,
the
exactly.
RNG. Just
Yeah,
give me a different
exactly.
random pick.
Yeah.
We used to
Except
do that with Easy's best ball
Yeah.
sheet.
Yeah.
He built in like an RNG portion where if you type in anything on the sheet, the suggested player for you will change. So
Yeah.
we used to just like re-roll until like we got what we liked.
Like defeating the entire purpose.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nothing GTO about it anymore. We're just making exploitative decisions, but now we have
Yeah.
a sheet for it.
Just to know there's a chance.
All right. Hopped into BadgeBros Brawl. We're gonna do
Nice.
this last draft, and then we will build some pick'ems here. 101 BadgeBros Brawl. Are we doing Derrick Henry or we got something else?
I think you go Henry.
Yeah.
I don't think you get too cute.
I think you could do some funky stuff here too. You're not able to really pair Lamar and Henry in the other contests, so you could do like Lamar and Henry in here and get your exposure to it, just as like a macro thought process for people. That being said, like I think we could do some funky stuff with like a double stack scroll. Like Goff would be like a double stack scroll here if somehow Amon-Ra comes back to us. Like, that's kind of fun. But yeah, I like starting with Henry.
Yeah, let's do it. What's going to be the combinatorial ownership of Derrick Henry and Justice Hill in the BadgeBros Brawl?
I was kind of thinking that 0.
I bet
like
you
what?
Zero. Zero. Absolutely.
I don't think it's crazy if you do it with Lamar. I
Right.
think you got to do it with Lamar, and this is maybe the only contest that you can do it with Lamar.
Yeah, where you just absolutely rip it in on a team.
Right. Yeah.
All right, what do we want to do here, fellas?
I think Puka's like vying for WR1, so I would take Puka, and then I think you could start scrolling and do whatever you want. Do Worthy, or we could do JMO again.
Yeah, you want to
or
do
we
Worthy
could do-
this time, Nez, since we did JMO last time?
Yes. Yeah, let's do Worthy.
Cool.
Because Mahomes is going to be a scroll in this contest. I mean, you could also do like Kelsey Worthy. That's probably going to be replicated at a decent margin with Mahomes.
But I think Mahomes is going to be a scroll, man. I think people are going to be way more likely to go Hurts in this one. And I mean, even if they are going Hurts, I mean, you still have to convince yourself that you don't want Jaden Daniels. So
yeah,
I think just like telling ourselves this is a Mahomes team is a pretty fun idea.
Oh yeah, circling back to our draft here, Jewish noticed 2 teams went double tight end, and then T Diddy comes in and says, "I didn't mean to." Then slow the past hour, I joined the draft, and people pile in the office. We could do like a Mahomes double with Kelsey.
Yeah, let's do Kelsey.
All right,
well, we don't have to do Mahomes yet because
Okay.
these 2 guys have QBs.
Okay, good call. Let's see. So we'll do Kelsey, and then we have one more running back or wide receiver.
Mixon's a bring back, but why don't we just scroll down to David Montgomery and get some leverage off the Gibbs teams?
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just compile the leverage on this team.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anybody's going to look to Montgomery, right? When you have James Cook staring you in the face.
Yeah,
like that was tough, but it was smart.
Okay. Yeah, that's a fun one. And I also think last week we talked a lot about bringbacks, and shout out to Endgame Syndicate and those guys, Brick and Nerdy Tenor and stuff. That the one that you guys highlighted last week, or that they highlighted, was the George Pickens one, and that really worked out in a big way. But when I'm looking at this Houston KC, I'm not sure it's necessary, but I imagine Nico would be like the 101 of runbacks there. I'm just trying to think of other ones that stand out to you guys this week. Like, I don't know. I think JMO is a pretty good one as off of the Washington stuff, but any other ones that jump out to you guys that?
No, but I think just that game, that Washington Lions game seems to be, where it's at.
Yeah. I mean, the Bills Ravens one is so hard, right? Because it's just like, it's so spread out too. I think if you're talking about bringbacks, I think stuff in the Eagles game. Honestly, like on the Stafford stuff, we were talking about how the Eagles have played from ahead so much this year. Like one of those Eagles pass catchers as a bring back to either Kyron or Stafford stuff of just saying like, hey, the Rams control this game and they're actually forced to throw, I think would be pretty good. All right. We have about 20 minutes here to do either what we think we do best, or, what we'd like to think we do best, which is slide the shit out of some pick'ems. Pick'ems, spicy margs,
radioactive spice.
Let's spice it up, slop it up. I mean,
Slide.
permission to slide, Your Honor.
You sliders!
That's a 65X. That makes me feel things. Permission to win a pick'em, Your Honor. I'm here humbly before you today. And
let's put together a winning core, right?
Can we please?
I mean, like, I don't want to call out these other underdog partners who we're friends with, we met and mingled with in Dallas. They're throwing out these 4X pick'ems for their audience. Can we put out some winners for the love of God, for the people, so they can send us all these tweets and we can get some promotion and marketing for ourselves?
Let's get focused. Let's stop fucking around. Build a winner.
I got one right off the hop.
And I got one off the hop too. Nez, lead us off here.
JMO receiving yards, please just throw it in there. 55.5. I feel like this should be like 0.7x. Like, this is what we're getting for JMO receiving yards. Sure thing. Do they know the Lions are expected to score 100 points? Do they know JMO is his welcome game to the national stage? I don't think people are ready for it.
Okay. All right. I would like to consider JMO's welcome to the national stage last year's NFC Championship game when he went absolutely nuts against the Niners.
They forgot.
They forgot.
because they lost. Now he's coming back.
All right. While we're just motoring on here, I'm going back to the Jaden Daniels rushing.
Oh my God, same. That's where I was too.
Okay. It's at 54.5. He had his most designed rush attempts all year last year with 10. He rushed for 88 yards, or sorry, what was it? I thought he had more than 30. Didn't he have 88 rushing yards last week?
No.
Crazy?
You're going crazy. Yeah.
Oh, whatever. He had 127 rush yards against the Falcons 3 weeks ago. No, but I do think the way the Lions play as far as blitzing a ton, I think we're going to see a ton of scrambling for him. And I think, we saw it with Lamar last week too. He had 11 rushing attempts, which was his second most. Like, these rushing quarterbacks just run more in the playoffs. They let him cook. And with this total, I think Jaden Daniels can easily clear this 54.5. You got one, John, or did I really steal it?
No, you definitely stole it. But I'm just juxtaposing some stuff here. I will say that Unabated likes the Isaiah Pacheco rushing yards number right now by 8 yards, which is kind of like an abnormal one that stands out there. It's only at 40. I also anecdotally like the CJ Shrout rushing at 14.5. We talked about that one as he propensity to run more in these kind of like games that matter kind of thing. And then I like some of the Lamar rushing stuff as well. Had a really nice rushing day the first time they met up, and we just know what Lamar can do with his legs. But that one might be best served for like a slide, doing something like longest rush or doing something like boosting that one. So of those three, I think I like the CJ one, but I could do the Pacheco one in the core too, either or.
If you guys both like the Pacheco stuff, I'm down for that. What was the third one? It was Stroud, Pacheco, and what was the other one?
Lamar liked rushing, but
yeah, I liked that one too. I think it's 52.5 for him. What do you like of those, Nez?
52.5.
It was Lamar, Pacheco, or Stroud,
all rushing yards. 40.5 Pacheco, 14.5 Stroud, 52.5 Lamar.
I think I'm leaning towards Lamar here.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm super stoked for this game. And MVP versus MVP. I think Lamar's gonna have to rush quite a bit today, or in this spot here without Zay Flowers, and like this to be like a very highly contested game in my opinion. I like 52.5 for Lamar here.
Cool.
All right. I'll lock it in. I have a 50% boost in my account because Underdog knows how their pick'em bread gets buttered. So I'm taking advantage of this here, locking in the core. For our audio listeners, JMO higher 55.5 receiving yards, and then a couple Konami picks here. Jaden higher than 54.5, and Lamar higher than 52.5. I feel good about this one here.
Yeah, I like that.
Dropping that in there. All right, there's the core. Where do you guys want to go from here? What would be fun, like to build something from each game real quickly? I know we don't have a ton of time, or do you want to kind of bounce around a la carte?
Let's do game first, and let's use 2 from the core to build out that Washington-Detroit game. Because I think you can just run it back with those 2 picks as part of the core, unless you want to deviate and do like some touchdown stuff with Daniels.
Or we could lean into it and just hit it with a 2-person slide of Daniels and JMO.
Sure. Yeah, good with that as well.
How do you guys think, Jaden?
Yeah, what do you think? I mean, like 79.5 or 89.5?
Ooh, man, 89.5 feels 3x.
What do you think? 69? JMO's probably easier to slide. Let me see what.
Yeah, he's easy to slide.
What do you like him to? Like 99.5?
Kinda.
Or just jack it all the way?
Oh, I was gonna say 99.
109? No, let's go 109.
We got to get this to. We got to get this at least to. That gets us to a 20x.
There we go.
There we go.
Jaden to 70 rushing yards, JMO to 110 for a nice clean 20x there.
Yeah, this is the kind of similar thesis to the Mike Evans one last week, except for we know the propensity of JMO to hit big plays.
Yeah. All right, we got the Jaden JMO slide. I like that one.
We could also do like a David Montgomery 2 touchdown slide or a Gibbs 2 touchdown slide. Can you share that one in the private chat as well?
Oh yeah, my bad. I'm gonna keep reminding me. Let the hands fly here.
Yeah, we should put that in the sizzle reel. Pete, can you share the link, please?
Man, I always just feel like 2 touchdowns should be way more than 2.57.
Oh my God, yeah, no, we can't touch that. Yeah, I thought it'd be way more, especially coming back from the injury and stuff.
Yeah,
it's a vote of confidence for the VR streets.
Like, look at comparable, John. Like 100 scrimmage yards for him is more than 2 touchdowns, and it's like I know he's a touchdown merchant, but like they use him in the screen game. Like I'd rather just do scrimmage yards. I think for that. The other one too, like it's one of my favorite ones to do, and I think Reeves has a crazy stat of how often it's hit. But the Jahmyr Gibbs longest rush, and then you don't even have to deal with like longest rush, like the 29.5 or 39.5. Like the 39.5 at 4.41, like is an extremely fun.
I just had the clearest vision of him getting this.
Okay, that's all I needed.
Picture this, baby.
If you want something crazy, if you want a 50x for this, I don't want to ruin this beautiful Gibbs longest rush play. I think you should slide Zacchaeus receptions.
Yes, I like that. I was going to suggest either going back to Jaden or Zacchaeus.
Like, hear me out on like 6 Zacchaeus receptions. This gets us to 50x.
Yeah.
Hang on, just hear me out real quick on maxing out the multiplier. All right, sorry. Continue.
I mean, we just have been talking about week after week. Like we talk about Zacchaeus more than we talk about the best players in the NFL on this show. He's the one running the routes, man. Let everybody else chase the De'Ami Brown like awesome truck stick plays. We'll take the Zacchaeus 2-yard pass attempts because they're dropping back 50 times in this game.
Oh, yeah, dude.
And I just want to see what's comparable yards wise, even though I do lean receptions too. So 3.74, you'd have to be, do you like 70 yards or 6 receptions more? Same multiplier.
Right. I feel like the A dot for him is low. And let me just like confirm that like I'd probably go receptions. His A dot it was -3. Or his air yards was -3 last week, -1. A dot. Yeah. His A dot's pretty low.
Yeah, it's been on at 8 average over the past however many weeks, 5 or 6 weeks. So yeah, all right, let's do receptions there. I like that. Yeah, let's lock this one in here. Just a cheeky little slide. All right. 10 minutes ago, let's just build some winners. No monkey business. Flash forward. Slide it to the max.
Can we get higher than this?
Okay, can we do one last 6xer here with the CJ Stroud rushing, the Isaiah Pacheco rushing,
Sure.
and then one other kind of mixed in.
CJ Stroud. Can I toss out another one that has a slight negative, but I think is really strong, and the Fantasy Life guys identified this as well? It's
Only
AJ
if you
Brown.
toss out the link in the private chat, please.
All right. Hey, guys, this is what I'm going to do. I have my ongoing one here. There it goes.
There we go.
And there's this one here. Pacheco under rushing. Sorry. No, sir. Our friends at Unabated said we're going higher here. I was going to toss out Brown over or higher than 4.5 receptions. It's 0.92. Like Fantasy Life has him projected for almost 6 catches. He had 6 catches last time he played the Rams. This is like the squeaky wheel of all squeaky wheels. This dude was reading a self-help book on the sideline because he wasn't getting enough targets. I think because the Rams keep this close, maybe there is a little bit more passing from the Eagles. Nez, I know you're down on this spot in general, but 4.5 receptions feels like light work for AJ here.
Yeah, no, I'm down with this. I mean, this is just a little bit of a volume play. This isn't necessarily saying that they're gonna crush. This is just, hey man, AJ Brown is 4.5 receptions in the pick'em lobby. Let's hit that.
And this is, Nez is talking about all the partners giving out the 4xers. It's like, let the boys throw out a little 5.52xer there. Strap on the condom.
Yeah, if I was putting out layup plays, I'd probably win too.
If I had 156 or 150x slide, I'd lose too. Okay. All right, here you go. Here's another big boy core bet here. CJ Stroud higher 14.5 rushing yards. Pacheco higher 40.5. AJ Brown higher than 4.5 receptions. Private chat, public chat, bing, bang, boom, bada bing.
I think we should do some more sliding and spicing, but one that I just kind of I'm perusing and found and confirmed my priors a little bit. Isaiah Likely higher receiving yards on that 34.5 number. I don't know. It's not like super high conviction, but like it's just one that I'm like, yeah, let's get ahead of that before the Zay Flowers stuff.
Yeah,
I like it, man. I think that's a clean 1x. Let's not even get cute with that. Let's just appreciate the fact that 34.5 receiving yards for Isaiah Likely's 1x.
Yeah.
I like that as well. I don't want to upset Nez, but I kind of want to look at what a James Cook lower would maybe be.
Lower what? Are you sliding?
No, I just wanted to see what it is. I was mainly going to look at attempts, but it's already juiced to the lower on 12.5, so that's not gonna do it to me. I was just trying to think of like in this game, what are some other stuff we like? This game's really hard, I feel like, for pick'em in fantasy, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, it's because the outs on both sides aren't overly clean, right?
Yeah.
I kind of like a cheeky Justice Hill touchdown. You're getting a nice little boost on that, almost a 3x. What do we got? It's coming down.
2.46.
Yeah, it come down a little bit. Never mind.
Choose your fighter. David Montgomery scores twice or Justice Hill scores once.
Right. Yeah. That's gross.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reception stuff is extremely strong on Justice Hill, right? Even in these games where they've crushed, like because he can get there in multiple ways. It's like they blew out the Giants. He comes in the game and he has 5 receptions, or even against the Steelers, there 4 receptions. Like he's just on the field a ton. Like I wouldn't even mind just doing 3.5 receptions for him at 1.5 if that's how you wanted to play him.
Yeah, I mean the narrative all year has been pass catching backs versus both the Lions and versus the Bills. So,
Nez, do you like anything on the Bills that we could run this with?
The Bills, I think are pretty tough. But like the one constant on for the Bills, I think is Khalil Shakir. If you're looking for like a non-Josh, I mean Josh Allen is obviously the constant, right? He's a monster. What do you think about just like receiving yards for Shakir? Receptions isn't bad. I'll take the multiplier, but I mean, like I think these are pretty fair.
How about Josh Allen rushing touchdown?
Yeah, we could. What is that priced at?
I don't know. I'm curious. That's why I'm.
Well, let's put. So one thing I'll just say, watch. I mean, Shakir is so good after the catch. He always makes one guy miss. So I like kind of actually going with the receiving yards and getting just a little bit of him doing that. Let's see what this Allen is. Rushing is 1.04, so getting slight plus money on it.
Let's run this as 3 because I agree with you guys on the Shakir stuff. Let's run this as 3 there. What's that? A 10x or something?
9x, yeah.
Yeah, let's run that as 3, and then maybe we can use Josh Allen and something else.
Okay.
I like the idea of a touchdown pick'em. Just only touchdowns.
You want to do a progressive like we did?
That was fun.
Yeah.
Hang on, real quick. I can't help myself just because I like the Likely and Shakir stuff. Let's just see.
All right.
Like if you took Likely up to 49.5, and you took Shakir up to 69.5, then what are you cooking with? Then you're up to a nice little 20x. Just in case the 9x isn't enough for you, you just do the 20x.
You'd be a great salesman, Pete.
Guy forgot the private chat again.
All right, just relax. All right, John, I'm just gonna
get the CLV, dude.
Need those TPS reports, Pete.
All right, this is our last one because I gotta go.
Yeah.
Let's do a progressive touchdown starting with Texans. And again, let's kind of do it how we did last week. Doesn't matter if it's like not the most favorable odds, just like who the fuck is scoring a touchdown in this game.
The boys didn't want it last week.
A touchdown?
Oh, okay. That's a good one. I was like, the boys didn't want it last week. And this Joe misdemeanor just finds his way to the end zone every single week.
Let's compare them. So
Worthy seems more fun.
1.16 versus 1.36. I mean, that's pretty negligible.
Mixon has the best. Mixon has the best single rush receiving touchdown multiplier in this game. It's kind of wild.
Wow. Yeah, the markets don't know where the touchdowns are coming from. Who do you like, Nez? I would say Mixon. Any of these guys at plus money look fun.
Let's do Mixon.
Okay. We'll do Mixon here. Then we will head to Commanders and Lions. Who's scoring a touchdown in this game? Lots of good contenders.
Jameson Williams.
He couldn't say it fast enough.
I was waiting. I was like, John, you have 5 seconds less than that to put out a touchdown.
All right. If Nez is going this high conviction, we're putting it in here.
Yep.
And then we head to Rams, Eagles. Let's see here. Some numbers. Puka's 1.19, AJ Brown's 1.16, Barkley's 0.81, Kyron 0.88.
Push.
Tush push is even money.
Love it.
Yeah. All right. That's in play there. And then we head to Bills and Ravens for our last one. This is the tricky one. Henry 0.69.
Josh Allen. This is where we use the Josh Allen one. Is he even money?
You're getting plus money on it.
Plus money for Josh Allen? Let's go.
Yeah, it's 13x.
That gets you to a 13x there. The official off and on the clock progressive touchdown pick'em. There you go.
Definitive.
Yeah, I might run that twice and take Mixon out and put Kelsey or Worthy in. So you have a Chief out as well.
I like it. All right, here you go.
All right.
Here's this one. There's who do we want for the chief out?
You guys decide. Who's Nez have conviction on?
Kelsey or Worthy?
Yeah, I think Worthy, but like I feel it in my bones, man, that Hollywood Brown's gonna have a game. But for a play like this, you probably want Worthy.
Okay. All right, let's do that. He gets the odds going too in that other direction too with a little bit more there. All right, so there's the Worthy version. We're gonna split it because we don't want to kill this this pick 'em off the rip.
Yeah, good call.
All right, guys. Sorry that I am squeezed for time today. I'm going to be doing LOLs right here in a couple of seconds. So you guys can watch Brian and I talk about that. We want to talk about, I don't know if you guys saw, there's like the big controversy that one of the big Barstool personalities, Big Cat, was revealed not to be like a longtime Chicago Bears fan.
Excited for you guys to talk about that. He just put out like a long form post about it. Like you could tell he was like dead. Like he revealed why it was such a big deal for him.
Yeah.
That was a good read. That was a good read because I was like, that does make sense why you would feel the way you feel.
Yeah.
I don't know if you read it.
So
but
pretty classic LOLs conversation too, with, laundry bros and fandom and stuff. So we'll be talking about that. And also there's this scandal with this guy's Blaze Bets that we've been talking about. And it was just revealed that him and his partner have been betting both sides just to get the screenshot of the win. So we got some classic LOL stories.
Love it,
today.
man.
That's the least surprising thing I've ever heard for a story
It's
for
so
people tailing bets online. Holy fuck.
It's so good. Anything else for you guys letting the people know? Sorry, I got rid of John on accident there. Let the people know what you guys got going on. Nez, are you running No Strip tomorrow night?
Yeah, we'll definitely do a No Strip stream. John and I haven't talked about today. We'll probably have to talk about that because I'm kind of TBD a little bit. I got some people coming over to the house, but yeah, No Strip on Friday, and we'll definitely run a show tomorrow, Friday, absolutely. And then today, I guess potentially TBD, but we'll talk and then let everybody know. John?
Yeah, tomorrow we'll definitely do Dog Bowl because there's another Dog Bowl qualifier there. Whether it's paywall or not, we will see, but we will definitely hit a show tomorrow for the people at 2 p.m. Eastern, and then No Strip Nez, if or not. Today, TBD on my end as well, but I might try and run back that jamming at lock again, just knowing that it's going to be a low volume slate for me and it's a shorter slate for NBA. Might just run back a members only jamming at lock session here with the projections live and stuff from unabated. So it could be a fun one.
Awesome. Yeah, tune in for those. This is going to be after LOL's my last show because I'm traveling tomorrow. Got my weekend trip with my college buddies. Definitely TBD.
Where is it this year?
We're going to Scottsdale. Have a pretty fun Airbnb. Got the pool table, the sauna there, the basketball court. So we'll have some fun
Nice.
at the there, and then just watching football, making bets, them badgering me for pick'ems, and me trying not to slide it too much so we can actually win one. Can't wait. Can't wait for that. So we'll see. I'm flying on the red eye back on Sunday night. So we'll see if I get my ass up for portfolio review or not. Otherwise, enjoy all of these awesome contests. Hop in there, chase those Dog Bowl seats for San Diego, and have a great divisional round weekend. All of us will huddle. We'll have our normal show next week for conference championship, but then we'll be kind of huddling about what our content will look like after the NFL slates run dry. But otherwise, we'll see you guys next time on Off and On the Clock.